voglia di finire con Giulia in paradiso. Di lei mi piacciono i capelli in tinta col vestito.
Lucio Corsi is not your typical Italian pop star. He is a poet in boots, a dreamer with roots, and a rocker with a harmonica. He brings something otherworldly to modern Italian music. Since his appearance at Eurovision 2025 with the hauntingly poetic Volevo Essere Duro, Lucio has captivated audiences far beyond Italy. His style stood out in a sea of polished performances. With quiet intensity and vintage flair, he turned heads and stirred curiosity. Join us as we tell you what you didn't know about Lucio Corsi from Eurovision. Lucio was born in Grosseto, Tuscany in 1993 and raised in the wild and mythic Maremma region. His world was rustic and raw, a farmhouse near Vettulonia, animals roaming the land, a painter mother, a father who once worked as an RAI cameraman and later as a leather craftsman. Creativity wasn't just encouraged, it was in the air he breathed. Lucio's earliest musical inspiration came from watching the Blues Brothers as a child. As a kid growing up in the Tuscan countryside, Lucio was amazed by the film's over-the-top musical sequences and rebellious energy. He wasn't just inspired by the soundtrack, he was inspired by the freedom, the absurdity, and the soul of it all. From that moment, he knew he wanted to make music. Lucio began writing songs early and performing in local clubs around Grosseto. He later graduated from Guglielmo Marconi Scientific High School and eventually moved to Milan to pursue music seriously. But even as he entered the Italian indie scene, that early spark from the Blues Brothers never left him. Lucio began crafting songs that felt like short films or bedtime stories told under a full moon. Lucio Corsi didn't become the poetic glam rocker we know overnight. In Milan, Lucio found a small but supportive indie community and began performing in alternative venues, clubs, and tiny bars, gradually drawing attention for his unconventional mix of folk storytelling and glam aesthetics. He signed with the Florentine label Piccica Disci, which helped release his debut album, Altalena Boy Vettulonia Dakar, in 2015, a compilation of 2 earlier EPs that had already made waves among indie critics. This album was raw, surreal, and full of wonder. Tracks like Cosa Faremo da Grandi were deeply nostalgic and steeped in dreamlike imagery. It was a concept album without the arrogance, driven by a young man trying to bottle the feeling of growing up in a place stuck in time. Then, in 2017, Lucio released Bestiario Musicale, a turning point in both style and storytelling. His second album is less like a collection of songs and more like a storybook set to music. Each track was inspired by a different animal from the Maremma: the wild boar, the owl, the butterfly. But rather than merely describing nature, Lucio anthropomorphized these creatures into symbolic characters representing human emotion, behavior, and memory. Musically, Bestiario Musicale was more polished, but it still carried the same wide-eyed spirit. Glam rock filtered through pastoral poetry, experimental yet grounded in tradition. It was a declaration of identity. Lucio wasn't trying to be anyone else, not a pop star, not a nostalgic folk singer. He was something else entirely. And the music world began to take notice. Lucio Corsi doesn't just make music, he curates entire aesthetic experiences. One of the most touching facts about his albums is that the cover art is painted by his own mother, Nicoletta Rabiti. Nicoletta has been painting casually for years, mostly as a hobby, decorating the family home in Macchia Scandona with colorful, surreal images. Lucio grew up surrounded by her work. In 2020, when preparing to release Cosa Faremo da Grandi, he decided to use one of her paintings, a red-haired ballerina that had been hanging in his childhood home for years, as the album cover. It wasn't just a nostalgic choice, it symbolized his desire to weave family, memory, and creativity into his professional life. This collaboration became a tradition. Nicoletta has since painted the covers for each of his records, including his latest, Volevo Essere Duro. Her dreamy, folkloric style perfectly complements Lucio's sonic universe. It's a family affair in the truest sense, deeply rooted in love, shared vision, and a kind of quiet defiance of the fast, disposable culture of modern music. By putting his mother's art on the covers, Lucio also sends a message: that beauty can be homemade, and that art doesn't need to come from elite galleries or high-budget agencies to have meaning. It can come from your own kitchen wall. Lucio Corsi wasn't originally Italy's first choice for Eurovision 2025, but he was absolutely the right one. At this year's Festival di Sanremo, Lucio made his debut with the rock ballad Volevo Essere Duro. He came second overall, but won both the radio and press juries and secured the Mia Martini Critics Award. The winner of the super final was Olly, a popular Sanremo veteran who had won the public televote with his ballad Balorda Nostalgia. However, after the festival, Olly declined the opportunity to represent Italy at Eurovision, choosing instead to focus on his upcoming tour. That left a golden door open and Lucio stepped through it with grace. When asked, he said yes without hesitation, eager to bring his vision to an international audience. His willingness and enthusiasm weren't just about seizing a career opportunity, they came from a genuine belief in the song and in the power of stripped-down, emotionally raw performance. This unusual path to Eurovision seemed to be written in the stars for Lucio. He didn't lobby or campaign for the role. He waited, and when the moment arrived, he was ready. Backed by a clear artistic vision, a tight-knit team, and a song that was already winning hearts. Apart from music, Lucio has walked runways and starred in high-end campaigns. He's even worked with Gucci, the globally renowned Italian fashion house. But he isn't a typical, glossy, sculpted Fashion Week persona. Lucio's modeling career is more of a natural extension of his artistic universe than a side hustle for fame. What caught Gucci's attention wasn't just his look, it was his vibe. With his long hair, thrift store glam aesthetic, and poetic aura, Lucio embodies the kind of offbeat beauty and authenticity that fashion increasingly craves. His modeling work has become a visual mirror of his music, surreal, nostalgic, grounded in the 1970s but tinged with the dreamy weightlessness of fairy tales. And Lucio doesn't see a divide between his music and fashion life. Both are storytelling mediums. Both allow him to play with identity, image, and emotional resonance. Whether it's a music video in a velvet suit or a Gucci shoot with a melancholic stare, Lucio is always creating, always composing a world that feels both vintage and timeless. In a career that's taken him from farmhouse gigs to the Eurovision stage, Lucio has stayed remarkably loyal to his roots, including the original band he formed during high school. While many artists constantly change collaborators as they climb the ladder of fame, Lucio has done the opposite. For his Sanremo and Eurovision performances, as well as his new tour supporting Volevo Essere Duro, he chose to bring back his original group of friends, the same ones he started out with as a teenager. This decision isn't just nostalgic, it's deeply symbolic of how Lucio views his music career, as a shared journey grounded in trust, friendship, and emotional connection. His band members aren't just backing musicians, they're part of his creative DNA. On stage, their chemistry is palpable. The performances are tight but full of spontaneity, like a group of childhood friends still discovering new ways to jam. Lucio often rotates between electric guitar, acoustic, piano, and harmonica, showing not just his versatility but also the dynamic range of the entire ensemble. Looking ahead, he's even dreaming of expanding the lineup with brass and percussion for larger shows in racetracks and open-air venues, but always with the same core: the original band, the original spark. It's rare to see such commitment to a homegrown team in the fast-paced world of pop. But then again, Lucio Corsi isn't chasing fame. He's crafting a legacy, and he's doing it with the people who've been there since the first note.